Hi everybody, this is Jim Coe with a quick tutorial on how to make typefaces more readable when they have distracting backgrounds using Photoshop. And I imagine that other programs that have the same kind of tools as Photoshop would also be able to do this. This is my ancient version of Photoshop, and these are a couple of tricks I've developed over the years. Pretty obvious stuff. I'm sure lots of people have come up with the same idea. Let's get started. We have the layers. Here's the background layer, which is a Hubble Space Telescope background, very distracting. And here we have a layer of text, and here we have a header, bigger text. Both hard to read, of course. Let's start by making the header layer easier to read. So I'm starting by clicking on the layer. Remember, in Photoshop, if you're going to edit something, it has to be the active layer, so I've clicked on that layer. Now we're going to go to Layer Styles, and we're going to choose a style for this layer called Stroke. Stroke will add a line around all of the characters in the font, in the typeface. So we don't want red, we want black, because it's a good contrast for a white font. And you can see if you go down here and use this tool that you won't get a pure black necessarily, so I click here to make it all go to zeros, pure black. Now we have black, and we have a stroke of 3 pixels wide. I don't want 3 pixels wide, I want 1. So I'm changing this to 1. And up here you can see exactly what it looks like. It's definitely easier to read already, but we can improve it further. Let's improve it some more. And also, of course, the opacity here is set to 100%. You might want not to have quite as strong an effect, so you can get this down to 0 where it's as if you didn't do it at all, or you can go back up to whatever you think is the right amount. I often work at 100% for this black and white. Okay, the next step will improve things even more. We can go down, or up I should say, to something called outer glow. So we click on this, make sure it's checked, and here the color is yellow. We don't want yellow, we want white again. So I'm going to go up here and get something somewhere near white, and then click here to make it perfectly white. Now what this is going to do is to create a blurred, faded background behind our text that'll make it easier to see it against the distracting background. So I'm going to change the opacity all the way up to 100%. And as far as the size of it, right now it's pretty subtle. So we want to make it larger with the size slider. You can see as you make it larger, it gets more diffuse. And we can control that with this other slider for what's called spread. So now I'm going to make a pretty noticeable cloud of white around there. Now the idea is, ideally we would like to be able to see through this outer glow so that it doesn't distract too much from the background. So all we have to do to fine-tune this is to turn down the opacity to where it looks nice. But it still improves the readability. So if I turn off the preview, you can see how much better both of these effects, the stroke and the outer glow, how much more readable the text now is. So I'm going to close this. I think that's a pretty good setting. And let's add those settings right here down to our other text, and we can do that by just dragging them down. And we have to put them down here near the bottom edge of the layer. And drop that, and drag this down, and drop it. In other words, you have to drop it on the gray layer, not down here. So now we've added it to both of them. Now to help differentiate the heading from the body text, we can, for instance, we could remove the outer glow so that the body text has only the stroke effect, and that still makes it pretty readable, but it makes it different than the heading, so the heading stands out. Or we could go back to our outer glow and maybe just make it less strong. We can double click and go back to the settings, dim it down a little bit. It's pretty subtle, but it's definitely making a difference. So that's a way to improve our text. And of course, we can center the text much better by putting a rectangular marquee, dragging a rectangular marquee around our image, going up here to the Move tool, selecting the text we want to work on, and then going here to automatically center that. And then we can go down to our other text and do the same thing. Now they're both centered. Now we can remove our marquee, deselect the marquee, and we can then, staying on our Move tool, move the text to wherever we want on our page vertically. We've already centered it horizontally. This will put it where we'd like vertically. Of course, you could use the automatic tool to center it vertically, but we don't want it centered. So let's say that that's finished, and now we have more readable text than we did when we started. And one last little trick is that we can go into our text layer and manipulate the characters to make the text look just a little bit better. Like right here, because we've put the stroke around each character, the characters aren't as fat looking as they would be. In other words, the white isn't as fat, as wide as it could be. So we can go down here and change the thickness of the character from, say, 100% to 110%, making, I forgot to highlight the character. Go back to the text tool, highlight the thing. Now we can do it. So now let's go to 115%. Okay, now it's a lot fatter. Notice, however, that the characters are a lot closer together now. Or maybe we want them even closer. So we can control the spacing between the characters with this other control here. So let's go back in Text Tool and once again wipe across here to activate that. And let's go to a separation of +10 to make these characters farther apart. There we go. So you can fine-tune things after you've changed the look by going into this character control. And if you don't know where this is, it's up here under Window, and then down here to Show or Hide Character. And there's a little feature where you can get this out of your way by closing it down and dragging it up there and docking it. So there you go. Thanks for watching.